Welcome to Daily Office Devotions, where every Monday through Friday we draw insights from that day's scripture readings as given in the Book of Common Prayer. I'm Reggie Kidd, and I'm grateful to be with you. This is Tuesday of the 5th week of Lent as we prepare for Holy Week, and we are in year 2 of the Daily Office lectionary, meditating on 1 Corinthians chapter 14. As important as worship is to Episcopalians, it's curious that the daily lectionary in the Book of Common Prayer includes the reading of some words on worship, tongues, and prophecy that we apply in a nuanced rather than a literalistic fashion, but then passes over other instructions on worship, women in worship, that we take in a similarly nuanced fashion. So we do read, each one has a hymn, a lesson, a revelation, a tongue, or an interpretation. Let 2 or 3 prophets speak, and let the others weigh what is said. We are expected, I suppose, to discern these words' applicability to our worship, despite the fact that our liturgy is not a study in spontaneity. In fact, whether our worship includes things like impromptu prophecy or not, or tongue speaking or not, we can surely learn lessons from this passage about how true worship aims at building one another up rather than putting our own spiritual prowess on display. Let all things be done for building up, chapter 14, verse 26. But the daily lectionary invites us to skip women should be silent, verses 34 through 38. Why? Because our tradition has decided these words may have been applicable to Corinth but have nothing to say to us? In fact, this teaching is important. Paul has already endorsed women speaking in church when back in chapter 11 of this epistle, he urges women not to allow the piety of their public prophesying or praying to be undermined by impiety in their appearance. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 5 through 6. Here in chapter 14, Paul is saying that when all the prophesying is over, he does not want the deliberation of the prophets, see the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 32, to be interrupted by anyone, and specifically in Corinth, some women interrupting the process by continuing to speak. Just as uninterpreted tongues can be a cacophonous, perhaps even ego-inflating hindrance to the edification of everybody, so can any speaking that is not, to use the language of verse 17, in turn. That's why Paul concludes, all things should be done decently and in order, verse 40. As Solomon says, a time for keeping silent, a time for speaking, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7. A time for prophesying, a time to refrain from prophesying, Exodus. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the Israelites groan under the burden of having to make more bricks with less straw, Exodus chapter 5. Israel's plight under their harsh taskmasters, with his wry sense of humor, my Hebrew professor used to refer to himself as our Noges Ha'am, Hebrew for taskmaster of the people, Exodus chapter 5, verse 10. Israel's plight cannot help but recall the cruel affliction endured by so many people throughout history and today at the hands of soulless brutes. When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go, intones the African-American spiritual. The words of the spiritual still resonate as we lift our voices on behalf of those still bearing scars from the scourge of antebellum slavery in the United States, on behalf of girls and boys the world over pressed into trafficking, on behalf of women trapped in abusive relationships, and on behalf of citizens of countries under attack by ruthless would-be overlords. The Bible's sustaining message is that in His time, Yahweh will answer the cry, let my people go. Mark, fighting the battle within. And then there's the battle within ourselves, a necessary reminder this last week of Lent. Jesus urges us to be as concerned about the sin that wars against our souls as we are about what's going on out there in the cruel world. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than to have 2 hands and go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. Mark chapter 9, verses 43 through 48. There is no crueler noges ha'am than the father of lies, who would take us to hell by having us grasping and groping hands, feet quick to go down evil paths, and wandering and lustful eyes. May the prayers of the crucified, resurrected, and ascended Jesus, who ever intercedes for us, Hebrews chapter 7, verse 25, prevail for us. Let my people go. Be blessed this day.